It's The Big Show, and it's always nice to talk to old friends and broadcasting legends. We've got one for you this morning. Chris Evans, hello.
Now, does Steve Wright know that you call your show The Big Show?
Well, he does, but I didn't nick it off him because I was doing it. Well, all right, I did nick it off him.
I think he took it off David Letterman anyway, in America, his TV hero, who calls his show The Big Show.
Getting into these interviews is always the difficult bit. Once you start talking, you're fine.
Yeah.
How do you do it then? Help me.
What? How do we get into them?
Yeah, how do I do this better so that you don't get offended that I'm nicking somebody else's lines?
I'm not offended at all. No, what I always used to do, well, not used to do, but what I discovered after a while is when you write your questions down,
yes,
you then look back at them and you realise that the first few questions are warm-up questions for your brain as you're writing them. So you get rid of those,
yes,
and then you get rid of the next few, and you sort of start asking your questions 2/3 down the list. That's probably a good opening question.
Well, there's my first mistake. You see, I haven't written any questions. So.
Oh no, well, but you must have some in your mind. So you basically you don't warm up. You just get straight in there, I'd say.
Well, it's kind of disarming people as well because it's always a bit tricky. People think that you're going to like me and I'm going to like you, but that's not necessarily the case, is it?
No, I don't think that necessarily. But you'll come at the interview from a different tack and that'll be fine. I don't mind. See, the problem is if you give somebody the chance to, if you give them a settler, so some TV producers will say, let's give them a settler question. But the point is, if they don't want you to ask them a question, well, any more questions, if you give them a settler question, it could be your last question of a 7-minute interview if they then choose to talk for 7 minutes. So get rid of the settler question, just get in there.
You still are on the most listened to radio show in the country. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I heard that was the case.
Well, when we last spoke, that wasn't necessarily going to be the case because you took over from a man called, Terry Wogan.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody said nobody would listen to you, yet they've stayed. Is it that old adage that once you've left the car park, they've forgotten your name? No,
I mean, the thing is, it's about being on radio too, and it's about the fact that we have this great sort of... I don't know, we have is it an army, is it an arsenal of we've got a huge transmitter, literally. I'm not, just bragging on our bit. Yeah, but we have got this huge transmitter, we've got a quality signal, we've got quality output. And so, you're going to get an acquired backstory of listenership. So I actually thought the listeners would drop off when I took over from Terry, then stabilise, then hopefully go up. But it obviously, as we know now, that's not what happened. They jumped by 1.5 million or whatever it was.
When I read your first book, we're going to get onto your second book, which is the reason you're talking to me. I mean, you're not wasting your time for nothing. Memoirs of a Fruitcake is out now by Chris Evans. The one word that sums up your first book was tenacity. You just didn't stop, did you, until you got where you wanted?
Yeah, but it was enjoyable. Tenacity. The thing was, I wasn't doing it as a means to an end. I was doing it because it was a brilliant journey, and it was hard work, not in the sense of a soldier or a nurse or anything like that, but it was long hours, but I loved every second of it, and I learned something new every hour. Every minute almost. And I'm still learning today. I from this morning's show, I always take something. It's like, I watched that fantastic movie about Facebook yesterday, The Social Network. And, the guy who invented Facebook, for him, it was never about the money, and it still isn't. And he's the youngest billionaire in the world. For him, it's about the passion. And everything else comes if you stick to your passion. Of course, the mistake I made is that I then left my passion behind and tried to have this non-stop party, which was not one of my better ideas.
I always think of you when I speak to bosses and say, I'm amazed how you go on air in the morning sounding like you're enjoying it. Isn't that the job?
Well, it is the job. It's the job. It's the job. It's also knowing that you have a purpose, because a lot of people don't have a purpose and go to work because they've got to earn money, because they've got to look after themselves and their family. But for a while, I always had a passion. My passion was trying to get a job on the radio or trying to get a job on the telly, because I loved all that when I was a kid. So it's like if somebody wanted to be a footballer or a racing driver or whatever it may have been. But then the fact that you have this thing, you get up and you love every second of it, is fine. But it's not a put on, because you can't put on for that long. They say, in radio finds you out because you're on so much. So you can't, on telly, or, if you're in a movie or if you're writing a novel, you can create a character who does that particular job. And on radio, some people try and do that, and it doesn't work because there are too many hours. You have to end up, yourself will out, especially if you're on for 3 hours every day, as you know.
If they were sat in front of you, your listeners, your mind would explode. Comedians do big arenas, 30,000. You've got millions of them. Do you think about that, the number of people who are listening?
No, but it does help, because it helps with the amount of traffic you get back when you say something. So the energy is everything, we know. especially in this business. And so if I say something, I'll get a lot of reaction back, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on email, whether it's on text, telephones. And that does help immensely. I mean, I listen to shows that don't have huge audiences, which are still good shows. And I can see the guys and selling their ideas, waiting for a reaction from the audience. So, the hugeness of the audience definitely helps. Do I think about them as a whole? Yes. Do I think about my responsibility? Yes. But, if I had one listener or 10 million listeners, the one listener would be as important as the 10 million, and because it has to be that way, otherwise it's not right.
We're back with Chris Evans talking about his new book, Memoirs of a Fruitcake, and we were just talking about your responsibility, and we spoke about this last time, that you suddenly have a conscience about that. I think there was a period, certainly in this book, where you didn't necessarily have that worry about what you were saying on air and would say anything.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. I ran out of ability to be on the radio, or for somebody who should be allowed to be on the radio, because I just thought it was a bane, thought it was some kind of almost not punishment, but some kind of burden to bear. Being having to go on the radio every day. Well, you don't have to go on the radio every day. Go and do something else. Go and in fact, don't be on the radio, because you're actually not very good at it anymore, and you're saying things that nobody wants to hear. And so I completely took it for granted. That was the thing. I took it for granted, and then I abused it. I didn't abuse it sort of consciously, but any kind of abuse is abuse, and that's what I did.
Let me ask you that question about those around you and why they didn't rein you in. I mean, your mum, for example, is one of the most special people in your life. Did she ever say to you, "Here, Chris, just wind your neck in a bit"?
My mum has never commented on my career. No, to her, it's just, I don't know whether it's important or not, but it's definitely not a topic of conversation. I don't know where you got that thing with your mum, but the automatic turning off of the swear switch, when
Yes.
you just don't swear in front of your. Well, I don't. I mean, some people do, which I don't get at all. But I just don't. I don't swear. I don't say anything naughty, and it's an automatic thing. I cross the threshold of my mum's doorstep, and that's where that particular valve stops glowing in my brain. And it's the same with talking about work. My mum, as long as we're okay, as long as we're healthy and we've got enough money to feed ourselves and a roof over our heads, then that's that. Now let's talk about other stuff. She's really not interested. And she was a nurse, for years and years and years. And then she was a care assistant at an old people's home. So she thinks that lots of things that other people think are important are rather silly and trite. And she's absolutely right. And this is one of them.
And in the latter part of your career in the last 10 years, Chris Evans walking in a building is a big deal for those around you. Does that ever become normal when there's kind of an aura? I know that sounds silly, but there is. I've seen people around you.
No, well, it's not an aura. I mean, there's a ring of something, and but everybody gets it. Alan Sugar gets it. People who run companies get it. People who are above other people for the right reasons or the wrong reasons get it. But it's as much. It's a 50-50 deal. It's a two-way street. It's up to us who are being revered, avoided, worshipped, reviled, to recognise the fact that people aren't being natural with us, allowing for that, and making sure that we don't get taken in by it, and also trying to ease the fact that it happens. But that's not easy to do.
Are there days when you wake up and you wish you could be Chris Smedley and not Chris Evans?
No, I love every day of my life. I love being me. I think it's great. I have no complaints about what I do for a living. I always say the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages, which barely exist at all. So no, absolutely no complaints.
One of the things that stuck out in our last interview was the fact that you said that you don't need to be shocking on the radio. You don't need to be outrageous to have a successful career. But of course, I think without it, you probably wouldn't be sat here talking to me today. Do you accept that now, that actually it lured a lot of people in, you being edgy, risky, and potentially ruining your life in doing it?
No, I don't accept that, because I was reining people in by being just funny and innocent and positive on The Big Breakfast, on Don't Forget Your Toothbrush. You don't have to be aggressive, confrontational, rude to be edgy. You can be edgy. Peter Kay's very edgy, but he's none of those things, and he's the most successful comedian this side of the Atlantic. So, in fact, I think I achieved as much, the right kind of notoriety before the dark days that I ever did during them. And in fact, if anything, they put me back, and threatened my career. And I had to come back and knock on the door and say, please, can I come back in again? So I actually completely disagree with that.
We're back with Chris Evans on your favourite local radio station, talking about his new book, Memoirs of a Fruitcake. And the thing about you is, since we last spoke, you started this one show. Let's start at the beginning. Is it fun?
Yeah, it's loads of fun because I'm not producing it, and I've always produced the programmes I'm involved in. I've owned most of them, and I've employed and been responsible for the people working on them. And there's a lot comes with that, Every employee is a potential headache. And, you think, hang on a minute, I'm paying you for the therapy, you should be paying me at times, And but the one show's not like that. I go in, I do my bit, I'm part of the meeting. I get told no, which is always a good thing. I get told no quite a lot, to be honest. At least 3 or 4 times a week.
Really?
Yeah, you're not doing that. Can we do this? No, I can't really do that this week, Chris. Maybe I want to do that next week. So it's good, and it's I'm part of a team. I'm not the player manager and the goalkeeper and the left winger and the right winger. I'm part of a team, and I go in there on a Friday, and it's brilliant. I get in there, I meet up with Alex at 1 o'clock. We have a little chat. We have a read through the script, and then we have a block through, and then we do the show, and before you know it, it's over. And everybody says it's not long enough, and that's the one thing you want them to say about your show. It's not long enough, because that means they want more. The one thing you don't want to say is, it's a bit long.
You're quite tough on yourself in this book about the fact that it was all riding on you. Is it now nice that you don't own Radio 2, and that therefore, if it fails, it's not going to go bust? Because that's really where all this started, wasn't it? The megalomania came on the back of the fact that it was all riding on you.
Yeah, no, the megalomania came before, and then the frustration and the anxiety and the conflict came with the fact that it was all riding on me, And I sort of stepped on my own head and pushed it further under the water needlessly. I didn't have to do that. If I could have been more organised, it would have all worked out fine. But then I wouldn't be here now, wouldn't be married to Natasha, wouldn't have my son Noah. So it's all okay the way it's worked out. But not owning Radio 2, I wasn't aware that it was for sale, by the way. But and not only the one show. No, this is a far better way. It's a far healthier way of existing, as far as I'm concerned. I get paid. I pick up a check. That's the end of it. I don't have to do any of the stuff behind the scenes. I'm not very good at running a company. I was very fortunate. I made a lot of money by accident. It was accidental. It was a convenient accident for a while, and then it was then it wasn't such a convenient accident. But as far as owning and running, things, I'm fine the way I'm. The responsibility is there to the BBC, which is entirely different. And I do feel a huge responsibility to the BBC. We had troubled times a couple of years ago with the Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross episode, and we're always under flak or always under fire. And I do definitely feel a responsibility to upholding the quality, the family values of the BBC, reminding everybody in my little way what that's about, conveying that to the listeners, and then hopefully averting some of the flack, which we do get, some for the right reasons, some for the wrong reasons.
I listen to your radio show and I hear that you get dressed in the dark in the morning. Does the current Mrs. Evans not know who you are?
She does know who I am, and that's why I have to do what she says, because I'm her husband. And she's now got this app on her phone. Yes. And if she's in a good mood, she will turn that on as a guiding light on the other side of the bedroom to get me to the door. But I've got one shot at that. So if she turns on the app that guides me to the door, and then I exit the bedroom and have to re-enter, I don't get the guiding light again. I get one shot and that's it.
Some BBC stuff, the one show. In terms of the future of that programme, do you think it's working as well with Alex and Jason as it is with Chris Evans and Alex?
Well, I mean, the figures speak for themselves. The figures have never been healthier for Monday to Thursday and for Friday. I mean, I can't do for 5 days a week. I was only ever asked to do 1 day a week. They auditioned copiously for Jason and Alex, and the viewers have given them the thumbs up. They now have more views than that show's ever had before.
If they wanted you to do 5, you'd say no, would you?
If they wanted me to do, well, I've done a couple. I've done a couple of super subs for Jace, but they wouldn't ask me to do 5 because Jason's the incumbent Monday to Thursday, and I'm doing me Fridays.
And all that fracas about you and Chris Moyles, you went on the Richard Bacon show and said a few things. Do you regret that now?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes, definitely, 100%. Yeah.
So why did you do it?
Well, I did it because I was asked a question at the end of an interview. I didn't have an agenda. We had a 1 hour interview. I get on very well with Richard. We're both massive radio anoraks, and we were talking about the ins and outs of things. And I shouldn't have said what I said publicly about a guy who's on the same team. I shouldn't have said that. I think Chris is good enough, old enough, wise enough to make his own decisions. And I shouldn't have said. When Richard said to me, "Do you think he should leave?" I should not have said yes, even if I thought it.
That's sad though, because that's what we love you for, your honesty, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah, but I wouldn't have been dishonest. You know, you don't have to say what you think, but you shouldn't say what you don't think. That's being dishonest. But you cannot say what you think.
Listen, we could do this for another hour, and we've got to go now. I'm totally confused. Memoirs of a Fruitcake is out by Chris Evans. It's always a joy to talk to you, and thank you for the memories, and good luck with the Radio 2 show. I believe it's got quite a few listeners.